Preseason testing is over. And what Max Verstappen tested on the RB22 in those final hours could decide the entire championship. Red Bull arrived with a brand new in-house Ford power unit. High risk, high pressure, zero margin for failure. And instead of struggling, the RB22 left Bahrain looking untouchable. 12 degrees cooler engine temperatures than its direct rivals. 15 km/h faster at the end of the straight without drag reduction system. No visible energy clipping. No tire collapse over long runs. But here's the part that changes everything. After the official test sessions ended, Verstappen focused on extending electric deployment even further down the straights. Not increasing peak power. Extending duration. If that mapping works under full race conditions, overtaking the RB22 becomes a mathematical impossibility. This is not a small upgrade. This is structural dominance. And the most dangerous part? You cannot copy architecture in the middle of a season. Stay with me, because what we are about to break down explains why the rest of the grid might already be chasing something they cannot realistically rebuild in time. Preseason testing gave us clues. But it also gave us a distraction. Because while most fans focused on the headline lap times, Red Bull focused on something far more dangerous. Control over race pace. In Barcelona, the RB22 looked calm from the very first kilometers. No dramatic bouncing. No unstable rear. No awkward hybrid hesitation. Verstappen described the transition between combustion and electric power as almost seamless. That matters. Because when power delivery is smooth, the driver does not hesitate on throttle application. And hesitation costs lap time over distance. Then Bahrain raised the tension. A hydraulic failure stopped the car for hours. The paddock started whispering. Was the tight packaging too extreme? Was the new Ford power unit pushing thermal limits? It looked like vulnerability. But the response told a different story. The very next day, Verstappen completed a full race simulation with almost no lap time variation. Lap after lap, the RB22 stayed within a razor-thin window. No dramatic tire drop-off. No visible instability under braking. No late straight power fade. That consistency is what engineers fear most. Because consistency over long runs wins championships. And here is where the Ford engine becomes the centerpiece. Telemetry suggested the power unit was operating significantly cooler than rivals. Cooler temperatures mean tighter bodywork. Tighter bodywork means reduced drag. Reduced drag means higher straight-line efficiency without sacrificing cornering stability. But that was only the visible part. The hidden layer was energy deployment. While other teams experienced clipping at the end of Bahrain's longest straight, the RB22 continued accelerating. Full torque. No drop. Which translates into superior positioning before every braking zone. Now combine that with the anti-dive suspension. Under heavy braking, the nose barely dips. The floor remains stable. The aerodynamic platform does not collapse. That allows Verstappen to brake later, defend harder, and maintain exit speed. Each component supports the next. Cooling efficiency enables tighter packaging. Tighter packaging supports lower drag. Lower drag enhances deployment advantage. Deployment advantage protects track position. Stable suspension protects tire life. And tire life protects strategy. This is not a collection of upgrades. It is a system. And systems are extremely difficult to copy mid-season. But here is the most important detail. After preseason officially ended, Verstappen did not search for more peak horsepower. He focused on extending deployment duration. Stretching electric boost just slightly deeper into each straight. That sounds small. It is not. Because overtaking in modern Formula 1 depends on closing speed at the end of the straight. If the RB22 never loses electric assistance, the closing speed disappears. You can follow closely. You can activate drag reduction system. But if the car ahead keeps deploying full torque, the gap stabilizes. And when you reach the braking zone, you face a car that brakes later and stays stable. Now imagine that over a full race distance. Lap after lap. Stint after stint. The pressure builds on the chasing driver. Mistakes begin to appear. Strategy risks increase. And that is how dominance quietly forms. Preseason testing may be over. But what Verstappen tested in those final calibration sessions was not a short-term trick. It was sustainability. It was confirmation that the RB22 can maintain performance under heavy fuel, high temperature, and extended deployment cycles. If that holds in the first Grand Prix, the advantage will not look dramatic on a single lap. It will look inevitable over 50 laps. And that is far more dangerous. Now we reach the part that truly separates a fast car from a dominant one. Mental pressure. Because performance in Formula 1 is not only mechanical. It is psychological. Imagine lining up on the grid knowing the car ahead has 3 structural advantages: more sustained electric deployment, lower drag efficiency, and later braking stability. You already understand the equation before the lights go out. If you cannot pass on the straight, you must attack under braking. But the RB22 barely dives. It remains flat, stable, predictable. So you push harder. You brake later than usual. You risk locking up. You risk overheating the front tires. And over a full race distance, that pressure accumulates. This is how small technical margins turn into visible dominance. Not because the car is 1 second faster, but because it controls the rhythm of the race. And rhythm in Formula One is everything. When you control the rhythm, you dictate strategy. If Red Bull can extend stints due to lower tire degradation, they open strategic windows others do not have. Undercuts become weaker. Overcuts become safer. Fuel saving becomes optional. Now layer on thermal efficiency. If the Ford power unit continues operating in a cooler window during hotter races, that stability multiplies. Hot climates punish inefficient cooling. Engines overheat. Energy recovery drops. Brake temperatures spike. But if the RB22 maintains stable thermal behavior, its performance curve remains flat while others fluctuate. And fluctuations are what create vulnerability. This is what Verstappen was validating after preseason ended. Not just speed. Durability of speed. Sustainability of deployment. Consistency of braking stability over extended runs. Because if you can repeat the same lap time window over and over, rivals cannot create opportunity. Now think ahead to different circuits. High-speed tracks. Stop-start layouts. Mixed conditions. If the integration between engine, cooling, suspension, and aero remains balanced everywhere, then the RB22 does not have a clear weakness to exploit. And that is the most dangerous scenario for the rest of the grid. Because in modern Formula One, copying visible aero parts is possible within months. But copying invisible integration philosophy takes seasons. You would need to redesign internal cooling channels, reposition radiators, rebalance weight distribution, rewrite hybrid software mapping, and revalidate reliability, all while fighting for points every weekend. That is not realistic. Which means the only remaining threat is reliability under full competitive load. The hydraulic issue in Bahrain was a warning, but it was operational, not architectural. If those small faults are cleaned up, the foundation remains untouched. And foundations win championships long before the public notices. The first race will reveal whether the extended deployment map survives real race conditions. Heavy fuel, dirty air, wheel-to-wheel stress. If the RB22 exits the final corner with continuous electric assistance, lap after lap, then the message will be clear. This was never about a dramatic preseason headline. It was about building a car that controls every phase of a Grand Prix. Acceleration, braking, tire life, energy management, strategy flexibility, control. And once a team controls all of that at the same time, copying it mid-season becomes nearly impossible. Because you are not chasing a part. You are chasing a philosophy. And philosophy is the hardest thing to catch once it is already working. And this is where everything converges. Because when a team builds an advantage this deep, the championship does not collapse in one dramatic moment. It slowly tilts. One race at a time. Imagine the first 3 Grands Prix unfolding. On Saturday, perhaps Ferrari steals a pole position with a more aggressive engine mode. The headlines celebrate the fight. The grid looks close. But Sunday tells a different story. By lap 10, the Red Bull begins to settle into its rhythm. No tire cliff. No visible energy drop. No instability in traffic. Lap after lap, the pace remains controlled. And when pit windows open, Red Bull has options. They can extend. They can undercut. They can react without panic. That freedom is priceless. Because most teams operate on a narrow performance window. If they push too hard, tires fall away. If they deploy too aggressively, energy fades at the end of the straight. If they brake too late, the aero platform destabilizes. But if the RB22 truly maintains thermal efficiency, stable braking geometry, and extended deployment mapping, its performance window is wider. Wider means safer. Safer means repeatable. And repeatable pace over a 24-race calendar creates separation. Now consider the development race. Other teams will analyze GPS data. They will compare straight-line speed traces. They will try to understand why clipping is absent. But they cannot see internal cooling architecture. They cannot measure hybrid calibration philosophy. They cannot replicate suspension kinematics without redesigning their chassis. So they will attempt incremental fixes. A new rear wing here. A floor tweak there. Small efficiency gains. but incremental development struggles against systemic advantage. And while rivals are patching weaknesses, Red Bull will be refining strengths, shaving weight, improving reliability margins, optimizing race simulations. And this is why what Verstappen tested after preseason might be the most important detail of all. He was not experimenting wildly. He was confirming stability. Confirming that extended deployment does not overheat systems. Confirming that braking stability holds over heavy fuel. Confirming that tire wear remains predictable under sustained pressure. That is championship preparation, not short-term pace chasing. Now imagine mid-season. If the RB22 has already secured multiple victories through consistency, the psychological gap widens. Drivers behind begin to force moves. Strategy becomes aggressive. Risk increases. And when rivals take risks, mistakes happen. And when mistakes happen, the points gap grows. That is how structural dominance evolves. Quietly, methodically, without dramatic spikes. Just relentless control. So when the lights go out for the first real race, the question will not simply be who is fastest over one lap. It will be whether anyone can disrupt the RB22's rhythm. Because if they cannot break that rhythm early, momentum will build. And momentum in Formula One is incredibly difficult to reverse. Preseason testing is finished. The data is locked. The architecture is defined. Now the only thing left is validation under race conditions. If the RB22 performs exactly as Verstappen calibrated it after preseason, then this season may not hinge on sudden upgrades or surprise breakthroughs. It may hinge on whether anyone can interrupt a machine that was designed, from the inside out, to be almost impossible to copy.